Newstalk 1280 KIT. It's the morning news, 7:15 on your Wednesday. Getting close to the midway point of July and the midway point of the year. And the next thing you know, you blink your eyes and it'll be time to vote. Lance Tormey.
Yeah, that's right.
November is on us fast.
That's right, man. Oh man, that's right. Actually, coming up here in with the primary, but we have a special guest in the studio. Speaking of voting, Dave, calling her a leader of the left wing elite that's destroying our state. We have former state Republican Party Chair Susan Hutchinson is in the House. She's challenging Democratic U.S. Senator Maria Cantwell in a bid for the fourth term in 2018 and. Wow, a leader of the left-wing elite that are destroying our state. That's how you describe her, huh, today. Good morning.
Hey, I live in Seattle. I
Right
know
on.
it well.
Yeah, well, we know it well as well. That's right.
But knowing that, knowing that we've given her 3 terms, and as you say, she's the ghost of the Senate, uphill climb, young lady.
Yes, of course. But I'm not afraid of the challenge. And I tell you, as chairman of the state party for 5 years almost, I traveled all through the state. I know all the counties and they know me. And so when I stepped up to run, immediately people said, I want to be part of that team from everywhere. So we've got the best statewide grassroots network that is helping us get out the vote over the next 4 weeks. Your ballots are going to hit next week. And then we've got the primary election. And I just feel so encouraged. We've got the best statewide grassroots network that anyone has had for probably decades. And
I believe that.
It's exciting. And people are, it's like we're so ready to have a chance to vote on someone other than Maria Cantwell. And like you say, 18 years is long enough. She's ineffective, a no-show. When I said that she was a ghost here in our state and also in Washington, the Seattle Times printed that and took it a step further. They did a little research and said she hasn't updated her website in 6 years. The number one way that you
Wasn't she a tech lady?
I know. Isn't that amazing? She only started tweeting last November after a 4-year hiatus. So to me, that says something to the voters. It says she doesn't respect us and she doesn't feel she needs to pay attention until it's time. The other way we're talking about is she just woke up from a 5-year nap, which she does every term. It's just, every 6th year we see her and she's running for office.
It's like the groundhog, only elongated in periods between coming up, check on the weather, and then going back under. Well, okay, so I don't doubt what you're saying for a second. I think conservatives everywhere and independent-minded people are thrilled at having a candidate that knows the other side inside and out, that has represented, as you have with the Republican Party over the last 5 years, that has name recognition and a track record and a communication ability above any and all that we've seen. If ever there's someone ripe to do it, and it's not as though we're putting some tired old white guy up against our woman. We've got a lovely woman standing by to take your place who just maybe is actually going to do something. If ever conditions are right, it's right now.
Well, what we've found all over the state is what's happening in Seattle. We've hit a tipping point where people are just utterly fed up. They saw that head tax. There have been a whole series of things. Seattle passed an income tax. It was illegal and it was unconstitutional, and as we predicted, it was shot down in the courts. But they passed that, and of course, if that happens in Seattle, it's contagious, because then it moves, the electeds who kowtow to the power elite there in Seattle go to Olympia, and all of a sudden they're pushing these policies through Olympia, and then it just spreads through the state, and everybody knows it. And that head tax, where you actually put a tax on employment, every employee was going to have a tax that the businesses had to pay, which would, they warned, they said it's going to shut down the Seattle economy if you do this. And the city council voted for it anyway, unanimously.
Unbelievable.
So people have this sense of, if you don't pay attention to 100 business leaders who allow this, who build up this city and allow our city, our suburbs, and the rest of the state to thrive through the amazing products we produce, if you don't listen to them, you're never going to listen to little old me, a citizen who disagrees.
Well, let me ask you this: Do we now have, because of things like that? You said a tipping point. I don't know if I'm not over there enough, so I don't know about the King County rank and file lefty. But do we think that some of the businesses that might have leaned left are prepared to explore with you some other options, given how far the left has drifted with ideas like the head tax and others?
Well, there has been for way too long a sort of get along to go along.
Well, yeah.
Among businesses in Seattle, because it's so, I'm in favor of democracy. I ran the party because I wanted to help Republicans win so that they could work with good Democrats and do good for the people of Washington State. I don't believe in a one-party system, but we've had it for way too long in Seattle, and it just keeps going lefter and lefter and absurder. I think people all over the country know about our head tax. They're all scratching their heads saying, you're going to raise money for homelessness by putting people out of work? Is that the answer? It's absurd. So, there are businesses, and there are Democrats, old school Democrats, who have grown up as Democrats who are fed up with what's happened to the Democrats.
Their party,
Seattle.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, when you can say San Francisco and Seattle in the same breath and do it with confidence, you got a problem, because they certainly have a problem there, and it's Seattle's such this jewel, and I know there's more to the state. I don't think we can focus all our time there, but let's face it, a huge portion of the vote will come out of King County and Pierce County. It's such a jewel that to not preserve it in some fashion with policies and approaches that will keep it the jewel and the livable place that it is would be just a tragedy. So let's figure that you're going to be on point with that. What other kinds of things do you want the voters to know? I mean, it's pretty easy when Maria Cantwell is the scorecard you're up against. It's pretty much an open place. Wherever you want to jump in, we can start doing stuff. What kind of things would you like to see happen?
Well, the tagline on my sign says, "She's fighting for our future." And I think when we have talked with voters throughout the years, they're so concerned about not only their futures, but the futures of their kids. Most of them see that their own kids, when they graduate from college or start working on their own, will not be able to afford to live in the neighborhoods and the areas that they grew up in. And this frightens parents. Parents want their kids to be near them. I was in Wenatchee yesterday, and they were talking about affordable housing was just nowhere to be found. And so they can't get the service people to work around Lake Chelan in the summer because there's no housing for them. They talk about the Growth Management Act in the state that's just shut down the ability to spread out. And while there are good things about that in urban environments, in Eastern Washington, it's dried up buildable land. And when you don't have an extra supply, of course, the price goes up. So talking about those issues where the federal government can step in, the onerous regulations and red tape in housing is inexcusable. I see it in Seattle, and we have to make major strides in making our places of work affordable to live. I think another thing that we'll be talking about a lot on the campaign trail is just the economy in general. We passed a tax package, the Congress did. My opponent did not vote for it. And yet it has done more for the economy, building jobs, lowering unemployment, especially in minority communities, at record levels now. I mean, this is the exciting thing about what happens with job growth.
Yakima County always was at 10, 11% unemployment. We are now at like 5%,
Record
half of what
lows.
we've been record low for Yakima County.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That is great news.
Yeah. And we're at a 49% roughly Hispanic county. And so true, it's happening in Yakima as it's happening in the rest of the nation.
Yep.
Well, I think that when my opponent and others of her ilk say that they care about the poor and the working class, they're very disingenuous when they vote against economic growth. And yet you hear it all the time on their side. That,
Scraps.
Yes, crumbs
Yes,
from
crumbs.
Nancy Pelosi.
Right.
So they've all picked up that mantra, and then you say, okay, and you care about the working class, and you care about minorities, you care about lifting people out of poverty. I don't think so, because there's only one route out, and that's economic success. And
Well, I was going to ask you about your affiliation with Trump. At one point, your name
the
was
Trump
linked
factor
as
here.
possible, some kind.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the minute that happens for some,
Exactly.
you are a non-factor. You may even not really be human in the minds of some.
Yeah.
So, how is that going to play? Do you think the fact that people can say Susan Hutchinson and Donald Trump in the same breath too? Any thoughts on that? Is that going to be an additional burden?
well, it depends, like you say, as to the voter who's listening to the statement. Yes, I was chairman of the Washington State Republican Party when the voters chose him from a crowded field through an arduous primary process. And it was my job to support the voters and their nominee. I think I listen to people. It's one of the great gifts of being in politics. If you listen, you learn a lot. And I had an Uber driver who said, I love Donald Trump because she is so vicious, only he can win. And so the voters understood that winning the election was the most important thing, because we were doomed if we had another 4 to 8 years with Hillary Clinton as the leader of this country. Things would not be turning around the way they are now. And so I think the Republicans knew it. They knew that Donald Trump would fix ISIS or get ISIS and fix the economy. And he certainly has. I mean, who talks about ISIS now? 2 years ago,
That's
ISIS
right.
was a huge problem and a concern. I'm from a military family. We're always paying attention to what is happening with our troops, and deeply concerned about this black hole of fighting ISIS all over the Middle East. And yet we don't even talk about it now. I'd say that's a huge accomplishment of the president's. He's being tough. He's building up our military. By the way, my opponent voted against building military readiness. And so I think when people think of me and Donald Trump, I want them to remember something going forward. We're talking about the future. And that is that if Donald Trump supports policies that are good for the people of Washington State, I will wholeheartedly support him. But when he doesn't, I can talk to him. So right now there's a little bit of hand wringing about what's going on with tariffs and trade. I can talk to him about what the concerns are of the people in this state. Maria Cantwell can't. She is Miss Resist, and she is not someone who can call up the
Zero
president.
dialogue capabilities
Zero.
there.
And
She'd
all
be
she wants to do
ostracized forever from the party if she
not
did.
to mention, she's not there to help the president succeed. She's there to obstruct. And I think the president's policies, week after week after week have shown that he's turning America around. And so I applaud that. And at the same time, I want to make sure that everybody understands if there's a problem with the president or his policies, I can talk to him.
Do you find yourself embracing him in Eastern Washington and not so much in Western Washington just because of the politics over there?
Actually, no. I'm just the same everywhere, and they're going to attack me for being a Republican and for having any ties to him whatsoever. We had somebody run last year who didn't vote for him in the 2016 election as a Republican. There are a few of those. And they called her a Trump supporter anyway. That's how they tarnished her in a very blue district. But I think people are understanding, and this I hope will bear out in November. I believe it will. That the president is doing really good things for the country, and that while some people were concerned, an awful lot were not. But those who were concerned are looking at President Trump and saying, "Wow, he's doing a great job." And so he continues. Today he tweeted just an hour ago about farmers. And may I read the tweet? I just
got about
saw it.
30 seconds or so.
Okay, just real quick. I'm in Brussels, but always thinking about our farmers. Other countries' trade barriers and tariffs have been destroying their businesses. I will open things up better than ever before, but it can't go too quickly. I am fighting for a level playing field for our farmers and will win. So that was 1 hour ago from Donald Trump in Brussels.
We got a lot of farmers in the
That's
Eastern
right.
Washington region that are listening
A lot of
closely.
them in our valley, that's for sure.
Susan Hutchinson, best of good luck. It takes a lot of money to run a campaign statewide for this sort of thing. If people want to support you, what's the best way to go? A website or how best to?
Yes, please go to our website, Susan for Senate, and it's a 4 with a numeral, a number 4, SusanForSenate.com. I'd love for them to look at my video voter pamphlet statement. And they can also go online at the Secretary of State to watch the others. But I lay out very clearly for everybody who I am and what I'm there, why I'm running for office. So I'm grateful for the two of you, Lance and Dave. It's been really fun to be with you, and I look forward to coming back.
Well, we hope that you will. I'm confident in your ability to make it through the primary. It's the top 2 kind of primary, and we expect to see you here again. We wish you the very best of luck. This state is primed. I don't know if they're ready for it, but we need it. I mean, it's one of those things that we got to do it in spite of those people who maybe think we don't. There's just Washington's too cool. I'm adopted Washingtonian. I'm from North Dakota. I've been here 30 plus years. It's just too cool of a state to allow it to continue to slide in the direction it's been sliding.
Yeah.
So I'm counting on you to get some. The other senator wore tennis shoes. We need you to wear cleats so that you can dig in and hold the line on the slide.
I love it. I've been waiting for. That is perfect.
Susan Hutchinson, thank you for your time this morning, and best of good luck.
Thank you.
You're tuned to The Source. It's the Valley's News Talk leader, News Talk 1280 KIT.